All right, we're gonna hang out, see if anybody comes in. I just thought we'd talk a little baseball. Why do you love it? So what does that mean? Well, it could mean all kinds of things. We'd like to maybe try to just talk about why we love the game. Um, and that could include, like so the way you play it, the way you experience it, maybe talk about some of your baseball memories. Hope some folks will come in. And there's the Java update, which I really don't care about. But yeah, so we just finished an Ed McGreevy League game. So taking place in two of my favorite eras, baseball, 19th century, and the dead ball. Of course, these players that you see on the screen are not from either of those eras, really, but fearsome lineup there. We'll see how many people can identify some or most or all of these guys. Nothing to be trifled with there with these guys holding the bats. But why do you love baseball? We'll talk about it, and hopefully this will send out some notifications, and we'll hang out in the meantime. So it's an amazing game. It really, really is, and so many things have been written about it. It's so unique when you think about it compared to the other three major team sports in the United States. Of course, you start with the obvious. It's the only sport where the defense has the ball. There's no goal in baseball. There's no goals to defend in much the same way that you have in the other three team sports. And while the tactics may be different in those sports, certainly because of the size of the playing area or what have you, it's still essentially defending your territory in those games, whether you're doing it by a stick, by bouncing, by passing, kicking, running, whatever it is. Um, Baseball, I think, also, I would posit, is the most difficult game of all for many, many, many reasons. You can't go to your best player all the time like you can in those three other sports. So you have Mike Trout in your lineup. You can only go to Mike Trout, right, once every 9 times. That's just the way it works. So baseball, I think, also walks that. Although more and more lately, we do have specialists, but baseball, in a lot of ways, is very much a generalist sport, and the greatest players are measured by how many of the five tools they have. Do you hit for power? Run, field, throw, right? Whatever. Whereas I think in the other games you do have more specialists. The game that immediately comes to mind there would be hockey, of course. Quarterbacks in F ball, centers aren't they usually the tallest guys? But what else? What are you doing in baseball? You're hitting a round object with a round object. And if you think about the job of a pitcher and how difficult that job is, you've got to throw a strike, but you've got to throw it in such a way that the other guy can't hit the ball with a round object on the round object you're throwing, and you're trying everything you can to get that ball to move, whether it's jump, fall, um, curve in, slide in, float in, what have you. That's another amazing thing about baseball. It's the only team sport with individual with of the four major sports we're talking about in the U.S. Of course, um, that's a team sport that has that has one-on-one confrontation. Doris Kearns Goodwin likened it to boxing in that respect. When it comes down to it, it really is a battle of the wits between the pitcher and the batter. No matter what the catcher's calling behind the dish, no matter what each managers and the first and third base coaches are signaling and what signals are coming from the dugout, or if you're the 1951 Giants from a telescope out in center field or what have you. You know, the fact that we know that a hitter has 1/1000th of a second to decide. So that decision has to be made as the ball's leaving the pitcher's hand. Um, Differences too. There's a big difference between somebody that throws 93 miles an hour and somebody that throws 98 miles an hour. And you wouldn't think that 5 miles an hour makes a difference, but in fact, there's a great documentary called Fastball that talks about the illusion of the exploding fastball or the rising fastball. And of course, baseball players are saying the physicists are wrong, that in fact the ball does rise. Physicists are saying that's impossible. It would defy gravity, whatever. Um, so the best hitters fail 70% of the time. The best players in other sports succeed far more than they fail. Baseball might not be the most grueling game in terms of physicality as far as contact, but I don't think we can judge the difficulty or skill of a game just on how many legs you can break. And of course, baseball with more fatalities, that ball is moving fast as a projectile. But we don't really need to get into that dark subject. But it's a long, long season, and it's a day where you could go a game where you can go 3 for 3 the day before, but the next day you're going to strike out twice and ground out, and that 3 for 3 day that you had could have been 3 grand slams. Doesn't matter, and that's one of the things that marks the greatness of this game. Um, while it's had its rule changes, Hannes Wagner would recognize baseball today, even with all the crazy rules coming up in 2023. I like that. A 300 hitter meant the same in 1903 as it does today. We have, as many big people in baseball said, a 300 hitter isn't a stat. It's a thing. A person's a 300 hitter, and you recognize that 300 hitter means something. You have different types of scoring, of course. And F-ball and all that kind of stuff. Baseball, you gotta make it home. That's how you score. It's a much more defensive game, I would say, especially more than basketball and F-ball. Hockey, low scoring game, I suppose. I don't want to speak a lot about it because I don't know a lot about the other sports. I do know basketball, a very high scoring game, and of course F-ball with its field goals, or touchdowns, extra points, and in college there's like conversions or something like that. So not really sure. I just want to check on YouTube and see if this is actually coming out live, because sometimes StreamYard is really weird, and yeah, it's not showing us as live, which is a bit of a drag. So maybe nobody is even aware I'm here. Yeah, there we go. It is showing I'm live. Nice. All right, 3 people watching, but nobody feeling like chatting. Wouldn't mind inviting a person or two actually on to talk about your baseball memories. But if nobody comes in, we'll just end this and end it for the night. Could be that Robbie Wartburg is streaming a game, or doing a baseball for Windows game. Not sure. Not sure. But I will talk about why I love it and try to keep it fairly fairly short. Well, many of the reasons why I love this game I've already mentioned, but its history. And I will say this: there is no game that has the absolute the history, the myths in this game, legends of this game. So much of the lexicon of baseball has entered our everyday speech. Ideas are out of left field. Uh, you know, we're going to step up to the plate. We're going to get this done. It's captured the imagination, and while maybe other sports have tried more gimmickry and things like that, and I've got to think of the one that I hate the most, and that's F-ball, right? The day after the Super Bowl, the Super Bowl fans are going to be largely talking about the commercials, and we baseball fans are excited because pitchers and catchers We'll start to report that week. At the end of the World Series, we talk about the World Series. Um, Things are changing in baseball, of course. They're trying to F-ballize it with pitch clocks and other things, and would like to see that go away. And sorry, World's Worst Gamer says I would just draw a blank, and there would be deafening silence if I was on voice chat with you and others to talk baseball. That's fine. No one has to come on. I just think it would be nice. But that's fine, World's Worst Gamer. You know, we talk about who's the greatest of all time, and we look at baseball's history, and can we really measure that? We could say the greatest of all time from a certain date, but who do we include in that? Certainly Negro League players, and we don't want to be racist or elitist and say, well, they never had their chance against the major leaguers. Well, maybe the major leaguers never had a chance against the Negro leaguers. I mean, they played a lot of sort of barnstorming, preseason games and things like that. And Negro leaguers, a lot of times ended out on top. Now, some people have made the argument, well, the major leaguers really had nothing to lose. They weren't trying so hard. The Negro League baseball players had everything to prove. I would say that they were all great players, but because of prejudice, it's hard to say. But maybe for sake of argument right now, because we will be paying homage to the Negro League Baseball, to Negro League Baseball, the Eastern Color League, the Negro American League, Negro National League, the characters behind it, everything from legit folk like Bilbo Jangles Robinson to Cumberland Posey to Gus Greenlee to Rube Foster, who is the genius of Negro League Baseball. We'll be paying homage to them. So for now, for these purposes, let's define Major League Baseball as those leagues that have been recognized up until the addition. So before the addition of the Negro Leagues as Major Leagues. So that would be the National League, the American Association, the Players League, um, Union Association, American League, Federal League. Um, who is the greatest of all time? And it's something that grandfathers and great grandfathers argued, and down to the present day. And there are people that argue vociferously that Mike Trout is the greatest of all time. Others will argue that Mike Schmidt was, or that Mickey Mantle was, or Hannes Wagner was, or Babe Ruth was, Ty Cobb, and it goes on. And really, it's subjective. We can go by stats all day, but the beauty of this game is you can't really settle that question. And who's coming along and who's going to be there, and the great stories of baseball. I'm looking there at the far right at Hammer and Hank Greenberg, a man so devout in his Jewish faith that he would not play in the Jewish high holidays. He said that every home run he hit against Adolf Hitler. We also see there Joe DiMaggio. For many Italian Americans, immigrant groups, identifying with baseball and understanding that loving this game meant being assimilating into this country, which some call a melting pot, but I like to think of it as more as a diversity of peoples that came together to create something while still maintaining their identity. So in the 1890s, for instance, the game was dominated by the Irish. You would see DiMaggio really open the door for Italian Americans. Branch Rickey, of course, would sign the first African American in 20th century baseball, modern baseball, if you want to call it that, after 1894, with Jackie in 1947. Cleveland would sign Larry Doby in 1948, both men facing horrendous prejudice, and yet both great players. But looking at these guys, there's DiMaggio. So for many Italian Americans, that was really admission into baseball. Prior to DiMaggio, really the only Italian American player of note was Ed Abbaticchio in the dead ball era. Who else do we have here? This is great stuff. There's Jimmy Fox. Great stories told about Jimmy Fox, that he purposely cut his sleeve short so he beat Ted Kluszewski to the punch on that. Lefty Gomez bemoaning the fact that Jimmy Fox was so muscular, even his hair had muscles. Fox, serious threat, serious early threat actually to Babe Ruth's seasonal home run record. Ted Williams saying that you could blindfold him and he could tell you you could have a number of batters up there and he could tell you when Jimmy Fox hit the ball. But what else do I love about it? Baseball fields are beautiful whether they're kept well or not. And I mean, not to sound too much like Billy Crystal, but it is true. I remember the first Major League Baseball game I saw, and you're walking out, and all of a sudden there is just this expanse, and it's huge, and it's wonderful, and you're looking for the first time. What else is it? A love that I had as a kid collecting baseball cards. You look at the pictures of players that you didn't see if you lived in the East Coast. Your family could just go hop on a jet and go see the Dodgers or the Giants. But then you turn the card around, and all of a sudden you had all these amazing numbers, and you were creating games, and you were imagining all of those home runs hit by this player or strikeouts thrown by this pitcher. And you could play out games in your mind. For many, it was listening to baseball late at night and over those magic airwaves, hearing this game being played out. Maybe 1,000 miles from your home, and you're supposed to be up the next morning to go to school, but you were listening to baseball because that was what was important. And I hope I'm touching on some memories for some people. And five watching, nobody wanting to come in. That's fine. I'll just end it soon and just put out some of the reasons why I love this game. Um, I do love the fact that you can sit with friends and loved ones at a baseball game and you can talk, and then all hell breaks loose. And home team, right? You get that base hitter, you get that long fly ball, and to watch the whole ballpark stand in unison. How even the fact that the seventh inning stretch was an accident that has become such an important part of the game just because the president stood up. And what about the president? Presidents throwing out the first pitch of the season, William Howard Taft in 1910. Uh, what else about this game? It's amazing. Again, we go back to its difficulty. Only 0.5% of those that start in rookie league ball will make it to the majors, and only a small percentage of those people will stay. And these guys are playing in the minor leagues, and athletes trying to hang on, maybe they're not even good enough anymore for affiliated minor leagues, and they're playing in independent minor leagues, hoping beyond hope that scout sees them. Or you may be at a low minors game and you saw somebody who tore it up in the show for a couple years. I remember seeing Eric Youting, and he was a demon for a little while. Played for the Houston Astros, if you guys remember Youting. Finally saw him playing in an independent league in Western Pennsylvania. And not that Youting was ever one of my favorite players. I was never an Astros fan. But to see Youting having gone from the show to actually being even cut then from that independent league, he just lost his speed. But nonetheless, you were seeing a man still playing his heart out, trying to get back, and seeing these kids go to a short season A game. When you start thinking that baseball is so over commercialized, go to a short season A game and watch these kids. They're playing. Yeah, they want to make it to the show. They want to make the big money, but they're still playing this game with love and with passion. Go to see a minor league game and see baseball as it was and do it before it changes. It's amazing. As a gamer, I love baseball because now I have the ability to play out all the what if scenarios I had as a kid. And even as a kid, I loved dead ball baseball. And so I can pit my heroes against one another. And, don't have the gift of that time machine to go back to 1909 and see Hannes Wagner play, or go back to 1936 and see Lou Gehrig finally out from under Babe Ruth's shadow, or see Don Larson pitch the perfect game in the World Series, or Carlton Fisk. What about the great memories we have of the game? Carlton Fisk willing that home run, willing it, and it stayed fair. So there we go. I mean, so much about this game that is beautiful. Yeah, so StreamYard, guys, isn't very good, so you might have to go back and listen to some of the comments. But anyhow, glad you came in. Anybody um, that's interested, I will send you a link in the Discord or what have you to join. Talk about your baseball memories. If you don't feel comfortable being on the mic, put them in the chat. I'll tell them for you, and I can even highlight. There we go. So Ken Castro saying the best baseball I've written, indie league games. Independent league baseball is absolutely just so much fun. What more about baseball? The green cathedrals. Again, if I'm trotting out the cliches, I don't care. Green cathedrals, you know, whether it was looking at the great Grand Dams, Fenway and Wrigley, um, even even to the cement ashtrays that plagued the small market teams in the 1970s, 80s to accommodate that abominable F-ball game. You still saw great baseball played in them. And now to the modern retro parks like Camden Yards, Comerica, PNC Park. Um, Something about it, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful game to watch, and it's a game within a game. And baseball requires you to engage not only visually, but you have to engage mentally. You have to. And you have to understand that game within the game. And I love that as well. And so not only do you have the one-on-one confrontation of pitcher versus batter, you also have the meta game being played between the managers in each opposing dugout. And yes, you certainly can argue that you have that in the three lesser sports. But in baseball is so situational. Yes, I will also concede that F-ball is in a sense situational, that at second and 10, what kind of play you're going to run is probably dictated differently than if you're first and 10. But every pitch in baseball counts, every one, right? So a 2-1 count and a 1-2 count are worlds apart. It's another thing. But look at these guys standing here, these 7 great players, right? There's a certain swagger about them, you know? And I love that. And even in baseball, when somebody screws up, they just look cool doing it. Even if they look stupid doing it, they look cool. And I'll even give that to Jose Well, um, maybe I'll make the exception for Jose Canseco. But what about the stories of this game? You know, um, yeah. Ken Castro says, "Ever try chatting with your?" I know many people that go to F-ball games, and it's not what it's about. It's about wrapping up when it's really cold and whatever. And I don't think it's there. Robbie, there's nothing wrong with wanting to really participate. It would be nice. You have baseball memories too, man. Todd B, let's look at some of his memories. He says he discovered baseball through baseball cards. Clee baseball fan says another reason why I love baseball, you can fail 7 out of 10 times and be considered great. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a great game. A great game. Baseball cards, Todd B. I was talking about them earlier before you guys came in. You looked at the pictures, then you looked at those stats, and those stats. And again, I am coming from this from a very, very, very biased position. This is the only sport I love. And I truly, truly, deeply love this game. And those stats mean something, I think, more than um, other sports. I don't know. They don't have that same rate. A 300 hitter again isn't a stat. It means something. It has a different sort of cachet, if you will. I think. Yeah. So Clee baseball fan very, very accurately. Yep, the cards were our internet back in the day. It was. It was a way for me as a Pirates fan to not only learn about our rivals in the National League, right? Because the National League and American League were their own entities back then, and that's not that long ago. But also for me as a Bucko fan to learn about the Oakland A's, right? And the Washington Senators, right? We didn't play those teams. We didn't play these American League teams, right? Robbie Wartburg says that his biggest baseball memories of the Rangers went to the World Series back in 2010 and 2011. Good stuff. World's Worst Gamer says my best baseball memories convincing my little son to go out and do the run the bases event after the game at Comerica Park. What a great memory that one is, as Cousin Ken says, awesome. World's Worst Gamer. Yep. Todd B saying, I agree. Learned about baseball by turning the card over. Cousin Ken coming in with 1962 or 63 Fleer cards came with a cookie. Wow, I believe they were 5 cents a pack. All I remember is that awful bubble gum, but you still chewed it. Why? Because your heroes chewed it and it was awful and you didn't know any better. All right, good stuff. D. Scott Howard apparently knows about these. Never heard about this before. So he says, worst cookies ever. I did not know that. That's really cool. I was in, oh, here we go. Let's go back to D. Scott Howard. We saw the legendary Steve Delkowski, fireballer, huh? In his final years in the minors, trying to hang on after his arm was gone. He said he was 13. He was our hero. I've read stories about Steve Delkowski. Apparently, this guy had I mean, was a laser arm. So good stuff. Um, Clee baseball fan, let's go back here. He says, the balance of thinking versus overthinking. Isn't that right? Isn't that right? And even when you're managing against like an AI in a baseball game, sometimes you overmanage. Clee baseball fan continuing, jealous of those who got to see the 1971 All Star game. Doubt we will ever see another All Star game with that many Hall of Famers. That one might be fun to do on the channel some night. The 1971 All Star game. We'll do that in Action PC Baseball. Cousin Ken says my buddies and I talked about the 71 game for days at our local playgrounds, Tim. And how many people, and I know a lot of you are F ball fans, but really, right? And I know that, right, you can talk about, some great games and stuff like that. But again, going back to some of my opening comments that I've said many times on my channels and broadcasts, largely what I hear from F-ball fans the day after the Super Bowl is, "Oh, did you see this cool commercial? Did you see that cool commercial?" And my experience has always been with baseball fans after the World Series, we talk about the World Series. Um, and as Cousin Ken's saying, talking about that 1971 All-Star game for days. Where I work, people coming in, right? They're worrying. So yeah, hey, congratulations to your Eagles, congratulations to your Chiefs. That's it. But I remember here at the end of the World Series, and people were talking about what the Phillies should have done this, the Phillies should have done that, and I mean the talk went on for weeks. You go to any local pub around here, and at least like say a sports pub, and at least one channel is going to be on MLB Network. But yet during baseball season, it's all baseball. So good stuff. D. Scott Howard says, my dad and I went to the 1979 All Star game in the Kingdom. That's a favorite memory. See, that's what I'm looking for, guys. These memories. Todd B says, then without computers back in the day, you had brochures which said, you are the manager. You set the lineups. You make all the decisions. And Todd says, I couldn't send in my order fast enough. Oh my God. The first time I played cards and dice baseball, it was like, I never knew this existed, man. I never knew this existed, and it was amazing. Let me see. Clee baseball fan with another great memory. He says, my dad got to go to the Home Run Derby in 1997 in Cleveland. By the time the game came back in 2019, he says he grew tired of the All Star game. World's Worst Gamer says, the thing that grabs me in regards to baseball is the constant one on one confrontation. That is why I love baseball. Couldn't agree with you more on that. Nobody can hit that ball for you. Nobody can pitch that ball for you. Ken Castro. Um, yes, I did, cousin, and I was so glad to be able to do that. I remember that he did us through my first game with his dad. Something that even whether the game turned out as it did or not, it brought back those memories of you with your first game with your dad and just remembering, and you were talking about the game as the game was being played. And I love that. I love that. World's Worst Gamer says, G. Scott Howard, that is one regret for me. I wanted to get to the Kingdom. I was a closet Mariners fan. Blue Jays first, but loved all the untapped talent Seattle had in the 80s. Of course, we saw um, Seattle come of age, but still waiting for them to get to the series. Clee baseball fan, 879, says, favorite in the park memories going to the final opening day Municipal Stadium in 1993 or going to Sunday games after church and knowing when to kind of ask about going. Nice, nice, nice. Good stuff. I love it. Guys, let me put this up here for anybody that might catch this later. We do have 12 watching, and I'm very thankful for that. This is Cousin Ken. Uh, Basically, guys, click on this. This is going to be amazing. Good stuff. Ken, um, we're going to talk as we get to the end what Ken is going to be doing, what this is all about. In the meantime, do click on that link. Do click on that link, and he can, of course, promote all he wants. And you can read some of the narrative there. So this is great stuff. And then what else Cousin Ken's going to be doing, we will talk about. Todd B saying he saw the Bird pitch in 1976. It was a magical season. He was one of a kind. He certainly was one of a kind. That's it. And Ken says that's his return to working. World's Worst Gamer. Todd B, you saw the Bird? Damn, lucky you. Mark the Bird Fidrich. Something about it, man. So many things about this game. It's rich history. We will debate from now until the second coming whether Babe Ruth called his shot in the 1932 World Series. Gehrig basically said, well, you saw it. And Charlie Root said, if he would have done that, I would have put one in his ear. Will we know? Even Babe Ruth addressing the press after the 1932 series kind of had that sort of cat who ate the canary grin on his face about it. We'll never know. But that's one of the beautiful things about it. You know, books have been written about seasons. Can the same be said, or the amount of books? Uh, there's a book called The Boys of Summer about the 1941 season. There's Crazy '08 about 1908. There's Hit 'em Where They Ain't about 1894. I'm sure you guys can come up with tons of books written about baseball seasons. Cousin Ken Castro, lucky him, he saw Yaz regularly. Awesome. Hey, there we go. Bernard, welcome in. Bernard Strum said he's just a fan. So his memories: number one, Ted Williams' home run on his first visit to Fenway. Number two, Fenway the night Tony Conigliaro was beamed. Yeah, bad memory right there, Bernard. And number three, the final two games of the 1967 at Fenway, clinching the pennant, as Al says, the impossible dream team. But yeah, Conigliaro. Not every memory in baseball is good, certainly, Bernard. Thank you for coming in and joining our little kind of chinwag. Aaron Reed. The last book he read about baseball was about Curt Schilling. Gutsy Performance by Curt Schilling. Yeah, I mean, I mean, there's all kinds of what keeps you coming back as much as we are bemoaning the changes. Again, they are taking away the runner on second rule. If you go into that, but I mean, look at the things that are happening. 7 inning double headers. Robo clocks now. Robo umpires calling balls and strikes in all 30 AAA parks. And I know it's coming to the majors. All the changes happening to baseball, the pitch clock, the banning of the shift, which is utter BS. And yet here we are waiting for catchers to report yet again. We keep coming back. I think this game, I don't know, this grand old game still captures the imagination because I think that those of us who are truly baseball fans know that there's something about baseball that the other sports just lack. And I'm not saying that there aren't heroes in those other sports. There certainly are, and there's stories in those other sports. I'm not saying that, but baseball, everybody knows Babe Ruth. Everybody has heard the name Babe Ruth, but I'm not sure that everybody knows the name Jim Brown or what have you. Of course, nowadays, everybody also knows Michael Jordan. I think Michael Jordan, right? People will know that name. If somebody says name a great basketball player 70 years from now, people are going to say Michael Jordan. But if you say that name, Babe Ruth, people know that name. So continuing on, here we go. Talking about a pirate. Bruce Keeson waiting for his friend, his buddy in a AAA outside the ballpark. Bruce Keeson, of course, that great sidearm delivery. D. Scott Howard, 1965, Tri-City Adams near Hanford Nuke site, managed by Cal Ripken Sr. 5-year-old was a bat boy. Dave May making the show. Aaron Reed, well, something, Mean Gene, Kentucky needs a Major League Baseball team. Yeah, I'm surprised Louisville and also Indianapolis. So, but yeah, so Aaron Reed channeling a little bit of Hulk Hogan. Let's get some more memories up there, guys. Why do you love the game? What else? What is it? Right? Again, we're all most of us in here are hardcore baseball heads, but many of us loathe the changes coming from the offices of the commissioner. But yet we're waiting. I know I'm waiting. Big Clue made a post in our Discord today. He said, where was it? Captures it just so very nicely. Was it in here? Where is it? Everybody has been really, really awesome. Yes, the Big Clue wrote at 7:01 this morning. We're just 2 weeks from today away from spring training on February 13th. Pitchers and catchers report. There it is. Right? Why? Bernard says the best thing about baseball on opening day, we are all in first place. Absolutely. Yeah. What did Ernest Thayer write in Casey at the Bat? Hope springs eternal. Exactly. Another reason to love baseball, at any given night, you can see something you've never seen before. That is gospel truth right there, my friend. Some of the crazy things you've right, and that even jogs other memories. Maybe you've seen some amazing things. You were there that night for an unassisted triple play. You were there when somebody hit a cycle. Maybe you were there for a no hitter, what have you. Somebody might have been there. Maybe somebody here knows somebody that was at Don Larson's perfect game in the World Series. Who knows? But I love that, Bernard. You're right. Let me put that back up there. On opening day, we're all in first place, and we all have that hope. Even deep down, as a Pittsburgh Pirates fan, and I know we're not going to contend this year, but it's that first day, it's that optimism. But the thing about we baseball fans, though, is we still stay through it. Even when our team is plummeting to the cellar, there we are tuning in. Maybe today, it's almost like baseball fans are Brooklyn Dodgers fans because what was the mantra? with the Brooklyn Dodgers. Wait till next year. And that's what we do. I was talking to a today at work. I was talking to a Boston Red Sox fan, an LA Dodgers fan, and each of them, yep, we're going to get him this year. We're going to get him this year. Last year we had to do this. We're going to get him. We're going to get him. It's optimism in a sport where, as Tim said earlier, you fail 7 times out of 10, and yet there's that optimism. That's it. We're gonna get it's right. Bases loaded, bottom of the ninth, bases. We're gonna get the walk off. We're gonna get it. And you and right. The manager has dug to the very bottom of his bench, and a 170 hitter is coming out there, but he's gonna get that grand slam. It's that I love. Aaron Reed, he says he got to see Game 3 of the 2005 World Series. I also remember my first major league game, which is a Cincinnati Red game at Great American Ballpark. So, Aaron, if you want to come on and talk a little bit, I will put a link to this into Discord. Click on it and join. All right. So, hang on a second here. So, we'll get Aaron Reed in here, and anybody else, you'll be able to click on that link if you remember the Discord. Please do. So, Aaron, it's going to be in the announcements. So it's there. Anybody that's in the Discord, you want to join, click on that link. I'll get you on the stream for a little while. All right. And if you don't, that's fine. So D. Scott Howard coming up with 1966 Tri-City Adams. Dodgers took over, and Duke Snyder was the manager. Wow. And he made time to talk with us kids hanging out in the afternoons. Sizemore and Grabarkowitz were MLB All-Stars. He's still a Dodgers fan. Still a Dodgers fan. And D. Scott doesn't live in California, by the way, folks. So how about that? Tim says, saw Cliff Lee's 20th win in 2008. Haven't seen a no-hitter or cycle yet. Saw the Indians clinch the division in 2018 in person. How cool is that? Bernard Strom says, only World Series game I ever attended was the Gibson home run game. Just watched that about a month ago at a pub where I was doing music. That was magic, and the way Vince Scully called it. That's fine, Aaron. I don't know if I'm going to be on that much longer, but do have your shower. We'll be doing this again. I want to try to start cutting back on those marathon streams, getting to be a bit now much for you guys, I'm sure too, right? Watch Len Barker's perfect game on TV again. Anybody, if you click on that link, I will see you and can add you to the stream. Don't be afraid. If I can do this, anybody can do this. Vince Scully or Jack Buck's call of the Gibson home run, chef's kiss. Well said, Tim. Ernie Harwell says Aaron Weed would be great at reading an audiobook. He certainly would. And again, Robbie, I really wish he would come in with some more just why he loves baseball, but that's okay. Nobody feels like typing. That's fine too. This isn't about twisting the arms. Stories and poetry. This game has myths. It has myths. Did Hannes Wagner, when Ty Cobb supposedly said in the 1909 World Series, on the next pitch I'm coming down, Crowdhead, Wagner says come ahead. Is it apocryphal that Wagner tagged him so hard in the mouth that Cobb required stitches? Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? All right. Tim says, all right, guys, going to bed. Catch you later. Thank you. Clee Baseball Fan 879. Guys, do subscribe to that excellent channel. Tim, of course, a big fan of all kinds of sports, but as he knows, I'm a baseball fan only, and I enjoy his baseball immensely and the way that he's evolved and what he's doing now. Good stuff. Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it. All right. Having a lot of fun. Right. And did Ruth call his shot? Who knows? Charlie Root, of course, is going to say no. Lou Gehrig said, well, you saw it. And Babe Ruth, again, You can find it. It's also in the Ken Burns documentary, but you can find it on YouTube and watch Ruth the way he talks to the crowd about that. If you look at the picture, it doesn't look like Ruth's pointing to center field at Wrigley, but again, his arm might have been sweeping around. The Chicago Cubs, of course, were riding Ruth mercilessly, and that's the beautiful thing. God knows, but as far as Gehrig, Ruth, Charlie Ruth, the Cubs, the Yankees, none of them are around now. That everybody that played in that 1932 series is no longer with us. Part of the lore is dabbling in the myths. Couldn't agree with you more. And Ruth's called shot is the big one. That is such a huge myth, but so many more. Some of the stories told about by contemporaries of Sam Crawford. I mean, great hitter, and then the fun stories. Hannes Wagner said he hit a ball when it hit it so far, and steam locomotive was going by, and the ball went down into the big, right, the steam thing, and then what was it? The engineer blew the whistle. The ball shot out of the smokestack, and the outfielder caught it, and Wagner was out. Who knows? It's so much fun. Love the stories. Love the myths. D. Scott Howard says my top game was sitting behind home plate in the Kingdome for 1995 for the double by Edgar Martinez to send the Yankees home. So D. Scott, I would have seen you there possibly. I was watching it on television, but there you were, high behind home plate. So D. Scott Howard probably saw you long before my channel came along. Todd B says Dave Parker hit a ball so hard the cover came off. True story. Yeah. And yet, until that happened, right? The idea of the cover coming off the ball, wasn't that the first big magic in the movie The Natural, right? Roy Hobbs knocks the cover off the ball. And of course, the game ends and all this rain and everything and fun stuff. And I mean, Todd, if you want to expand on that story, please feel free. And if you don't, also feel free. So, guys, we have 8 amazing players out here. And I am guessing, well, let me see. This can't be the 1934 series because DiMaggio in the center, his rookie year, 1936, DiMaggio would play, what, until 51 or 52. Definitely an all-star game. So I'm not really sure what all-star game this is, but it has to be at least 1936 because DiMaggio's there. Be nice if it was 1934 and you would have Joe Cronin, Hank, right, Babe Ruth and Al Simmons, whatever, the 5 that Joe Cronin struck out. Great story, enduring story. What else do we have? Dave Parker threw the ball so hard in the 79 All-Star game that he was the most valuable player. I appreciate you guys coming in and just jawing some baseball here. And yeah, so we'll cut it out at about an hour if nobody comes back on. If we get Aaron Reed on for a little bit, we'll see. But another thing I love about baseball, all of you right now think back to your childhood. And again, it was so true in the Ken Burns baseball documentary and other documentaries. And I'm thinking specifically of Dr. Harold Seymour's 3rd volume, Baseball, the People's Game. You could play baseball anywhere, and you didn't need 18 guys to play baseball. What you had stickball, and you had different versions. New York stickball and Pennsylvania stickball, very different. You play stickball in New York, it's with a stick and a Spalding. And how many sewer lids are you going to hit? In Pennsylvania, how we played stickball is it was a bat and a ball, but you painted a strike zone on a brick wall, usually a school, whatever, and the idea was to hit it there. What's another baseball game you could play? Throwing it off your front steps or throwing it off a roof, and if it was 1 bounce, it was a single, 2 bounce, whatever. You tried to put good spin on that rubber ball, right? You had ghost runners on first, second, third. You had to call your field, right? And if you say right field, and if you hit it to left field, you were out, right? You could play baseball anywhere, city streets, whatever. You could play it with 2 people, my best friend in college and I would play wiffle ball for hours, just the two of us. But then, what did we do? At the end of our sophomore year, a bunch of we students took on a bunch of professors at one of the campuses of Penn State, and we beat them 15-14. It was brilliant. We made sure, though, to play the professors after the final grades were in. But I will never forget that. It was complete magic. Complete magic. But think of the way you used to play baseball in the pickup games in the sandlot. Some of you played little league. Some of you went higher. You know, but for a lot of us, it was just playing. And a movie that resonates with me is The Sandlot because we went around trying to get money, man, our allowance or whatever, to buy a baseball to play. And we oiled up the gloves and oh man, we did the whole thing. And in the winter time, my friends and I would go up to a playground that would be like blacktop covered, and we shoveled the damn thing off so we could play baseball. We did. It was just fun. Um, Bernard says there's no better sight than walking up a ramp or stairs at a ballpark and seeing that beautiful, massive green field right there in front of you. You're right. It's just, and it's so green, isn't it? It's greener than green. It is greener than Ireland, and I love it. And I've been to other games. It's not like I've never seen one of the lesser sports. I have. I've been to F-ball games and hockey matches and basketball games. But I don't know, kind of walking out and seeing a wooden court or a floor with some painting on it is not the same as seeing that huge baseball field. And when you're sitting up in the nosebleed seats and every fly ball looks like a home run. Awesome stuff. Awesome, awesome, awesome stuff. So glad there's a love of this. We love it so much that it translates even into a hobby for us, right? That we can vicariously manage these great players through cards and dice, through digital means. Even for those of us that play Twitch games, right? For gamers that play the Twitch games, you can be Mike Trout, you can be Ichiro, right? Or you could be mowing them down like Randy Johnson, whatever. I like what John Thorne says. He says that baseball's deceptive. It fosters the illusion that anybody could do it. And for the most part, if we get rid of some of the PED madness, I think he was also right. The baseball players look like us. They're not 6'8", 280. I mean, we had Frank Howard, okay, who was 6'5", 6'6". But for the most part, most of these guys, most baseball players, they don't look a lot different. I think they're more identifiable. D. Scott Howard says I played third base in the 1973 Western Washington University co-ed intramural champs. We beat a team of ringers from the Western Washington University baseball team. Sweet. Nice. 50 damn years ago, says D. Scott. Nice. Good memories. Good memories, man. What else do I love? Baseball? Biggest damn books of all the sports. Whew. Total Baseball, 2,600 pages. All-time baseball source book. That thing's got to be 2,700 pages. The Bert Solomon book I reviewed a few weeks ago on the channel, 1,200 pages, but heavy. Jonathan Light's latest edition, Cultural Encyclopedia of Baseball. Again, Dr. Harold Seymour's books. The wonderful gift that D. Scott Howard gave me, the Fireside Book of Baseball. Great baseball books, man. Love them. And yeah, a lot of beer under the bridge. Well, beer, pretty much. Isn't it part of it, though, too? Right? Sitting in a baseball park, right? Ordering, getting a bag of peanuts, buddy, and you can just throw those shells wherever you want, right down at your feet. Doesn't matter. Love it. It's also how you got to pay attention to the game, too, right? When that ball goes, buddy, you better be watching what's on the field because that ball gets real big real fast. I found that out of a Baltimore Orioles game, as I've told you guys many times. almost got killed by a home run, but ended up with just a big shower of beer. It was fun. Let me see. Bernard says the first Major League Baseball memory, Don Budden of the Red Sox hitting a grand slam home run to beat the Yankees in 10 innings in 1959. Was a Red Sox fan, that's going to be one you're going to savor and hand down even too, right? That had to be sweet. That had to be sweet, Bernard. Thank you. Love it, love it, love it. Ken Castro, the Baseball Encyclopedia, 1969, came in a brown sleeve. Because what was it, Ken? Before that, wasn't it the High Turkin? And I'm relying on history now. The High Turkin, S.C. Thompson, and it really wasn't complete stats. The Baseball Encyclopedia, big breakthrough, 1969, the 100th anniversary, of course, of the Cincinnati Red Stockings. So nice little bit of history there from Ken Castro. Of course, the Baseball Encyclopedias are gone now, which makes me sad. But I snap up books on eBay, so get these books on eBay. Ken says, Bernard, you beat me by a whopping 4 years. It was used Cousin of Brown cover. Still got mine, Ken, and it came with The Glory of Their Times. Wow, right? And what a great book that one is. Anthony from Bleacher Bums Gaming doing his Deadball Diaries and using the audio book version of Lawrence Ritter's classic. And to listen to them talk, these players, to Sam Crawford, Davy Jones, all the players, Tommy Leach, and to hear these voices from over 100 years ago, just magic. Pickled on 19. Haven't seen you in a while, my friend. As a kid in the 70s, listened to Jack Buck do Cardinal games, Herb Score doing Indians games, Harwell doing the Tigers. You felt like you're at the ballpark. Oh, right. Oh my God, love it to listen to them. I mean, I know again, friend of mine when I was an undergraduate, we put on a Pirate game and put the radio in my window, and we'd be outside having a catch and listening to a Bucko game. There's just nothing like it. Cousin Ken says, when my parents passed, some former family member tossed, I think, the Scott Howard, talking about the first Macmillan Baseball Encyclopedia. And that family member is dead to him, he says, as they would be to, I think, anybody. Baseball Encyclopedia, that thing weighed 40 pounds, right? And they got heavier every year. Heavier every year. And the very final edition of Total Baseball, you don't even need a gym with that thing. Just pick it up and do some curls with Total Baseball. That's the last edition with Barry Bonds in the cover. World's Worst Gamer. I think when baseball has in other sports is that the dimensions of the playing field stadium are cookie cutter. Another reason he loves baseball. Good thing you stayed away from it in the 70s, but yes, I would totally agree with that. D. Scott Howard, my cousin tossed her son's Strat stuff after he moved out. Felt so bad she bought him the 1969 season on eBay this year. Robbie's having to take care of household matters. I don't know why I highlighted that one, but I guess to let everybody know that Robbie's still here. Ooh, this one we will, though. We'll do this. We'll get off baseball for just a second. Ken Castro saying you got a chick over, Robbie? All right. I was hoping we'd get Steve Tate to stop in tonight and have an old chin wag, but guess we won't. All right, gents. Well, we can always do this again. But I just didn't feel like doing another game. I just wanted to sort of talk about this game I love so much, and that all of you love so much, and it brings us together as a family. And thank you all for that. Thank you tonight for sharing some of your memories of this beautiful game. So as we veer back onto baseball for a couple more minutes and get ready to shut it down for the night. I'll be doing some daytime baseball tomorrow. I don't know if it's going to be Harwell. I might call a game. We'll see. just for giggles. Maybe we'll return to our Heresy League that we have going on. So there we go. All right. All right, we're gonna leave it at this. I think is we'll do it. We'll do another night for. We will have fun and we'll do a Robbie dating. We'll do something for Robbie and get him all ready for all that stuff. So in the meantime, I want to thank all of you for really coming in and sharing your baseball memories. It means a lot. And Aaron, if you're catching this after whatever, I'm going to go ahead and shut it down. But maybe we'll get you on to do a game like tomorrow or tomorrow evening or something. Because it's becoming just sort of a homily by me now. So, all right. Thank you to Robbie Wartburg, to Todd B, D. Scott Howard, to Bernard Strom. Bernard, hope we see you back here again sometime. It's always super knowledgeable baseball fans here. You're always, always welcome. Cousin Ken Castro, just constant inspiration. Thank you, my friend. Todd B, always rely on Todd B for great baseball knowledge and just absolutely great, great humor. Pickle 119, thank you for coming in. Really appreciate you spending a little bit of time with us. Clee Baseball Fan 879, great channel and contributing so much to tonight's discussion. To Aaron Reed, thank you so much, Aaron, who has become a star on this channel, I might say. I might have to bequeath this to him once I go to my non-baseball channel. Did I say D. Scott Howard? I'll say it again. There we go. And that is it. That is it. That is it, guys. Thank you very much. We will come back and we'll do another Why Do You Love Baseball? Why not? It's not like we have to stop it after one night. So, guys, I realize it's early. I don't even have work tomorrow, but I'm just not up to another game tonight. I just want to kind of maybe find one of those classic baseball games on YouTube and kick back and watch. So until next time, I appreciate each and every one of you, longtime subscribers to our or members of our family, and also to people who have sort of stopped in. I appreciate you too. And until next time, see you around the ballpark, see you around the batting cage, and relive some memories. Maybe roll up a game, play a game, take down that book you haven't looked at in a while, find a documentary somewhere, celebrate this beautiful game, and in 2 weeks, pitchers and catchers report. See you guys next time. Good night.